You were never supposed to hear this. Buried under layers of false history, sanitized archives, and broken bloodlines lies a name, Ashford. Whispered only in decaying journals and redacted letters, this family was erased for a reason. They didn't just cross moral lines, they rewrote what it meant to be human. And if you feel a chill crawling up your spine right now, it's because somewhere, something ancient still remembers them. Tonight, I'm going to open a sealed door, one they never wanted opened again. But be warned, once you cross this threshold, you don't get to unsee it. This is the cursed legacy of the Ashford bloodline, a descent not into madness, but into design. They didn't lose their minds. They gave them away. Willingly. The Ashfords didn't come from nobility, they came from the black heart of forgotten Europe. Before they set foot in the American wilderness, they were already marked. Marked by a lineage of precision cruelty, cloaked in white lace and the language of healing. What they practiced wasn't religion. It was refinement, the surgical distillation of obedience through agony. And by the time they arrived in Millbridge, Maine, they weren't missionaries, they were engineers of the soul. 3 women. 3 faces of control. Agatha, the voice. Prudence, the hand. Temperance, the mask. Each trained in a different form of manipulation. Each fluent in the anatomy of suffering. But the most disturbing truth? They were allowed to do it. Welcomed, praised, even funded. Because what they offered wasn't madness, it was order. In a world terrified of chaos, the Ashfords promised transformation. And they delivered. At a cost no one was willing to speak of, until now. If you think this is just a story about old nuns in the woods, you're already behind. This is about legacy. Control. Bloodline eugenics wrapped in the veil of sanctity. And what they began in 1798 has not ended. It has only evolved. So listen closely, and don't look away. Because as we unearth the next layer of this descent, you're not just a witness anymore. You're being initiated. And what you're about to learn will change what you see in every institution you've ever trusted. We begin where all forbidden histories begin. With silence, and the men who paid for it. The year is 1798. The Revolutionary War is barely a memory. But in the shadows of the new American Republic, old European ideologies are quietly taking root, replanted by hands trained in the art of subjugation. The Ashford sisters arrive in Millbridge, Maine, not as refugees, but as agents. Their passage is paid in full by a silent patron whose name never appears in any passenger manifest. But if you trace the shipping ledger backwards, you'll find something strange. A cargo manifest from France labeled specimens, religious. No details. Just a weight. 3 passengers. 2 trunks. And 1 crate that was never opened by customs. They were received by a man named Elias Brandt, a local mill owner with no wife, no children. Her name was never written down, not in parish records, not in the town registry, not even in the Ashford sisters' personal journals. But they called her Clara, the youngest girl ever admitted to the oracular school. 7 years old. Mute from birth. Yet she could draw, obsessively, compulsively, with detail no child should comprehend. Circuit-like diagrams of bones, language spiraling in concentric rings, and portraits of women with no eyes, no mouths, just open skin where something should be. Clara was different. Not gifted. Altered. The Ashford sisters didn't teach her. They studied her. She didn't learn, she revealed. She would sit for hours in the stone chamber below the school, inside that circle of skulls, humming tones no adult could reproduce. And when they placed her hand on the final indentation, the empty space left for her, she screamed. For the first and last time in her life. After that, they stopped calling her Clara. They started calling her the vessel. But what they didn't understand, what they could never control, was that Clara didn't come to fulfill their design. She came to reverse it. In the winter of 1812, 3 days before the fire, all 12 girls in the school vanished. No tracks. No blood. Just a message carved into the main hall's wooden floor, letters so deep they had to be burned out of the structure. Unbind the root, and the crown shall bleed. The Ashford sisters were found days later in the forest, kneeling, eyes missing, tongues removed. Facing northeast, toward something buried. Or maybe, awakening. Clara was never found. But she was seen again. Once. In 1906, in a photograph taken during the reopening ceremony of the St. Agnes Asylum for the Destitute, built over the ruins of the oracular school. The photo shows nurses and donors in fine Victorian dress, all smiling, except for one child in the background, barefoot, pale, standing perfectly still, and in her hand, a skull, small, polished, cradled like an offering. The file number for the photo is missing, but the image still exists, because every copy they've tried to destroy comes back. The fire that consumed the oracular school was no ordinary blaze. It did not spread. It erased. Stone melted. Iron ran like wax. The eastern wall bore the outline of 12 girls holding hands, burned into the granite. But no remains were found. Not even teeth. For decades, townsfolk refused to approach the ruins. Children dared each other to bring back bones or trinkets. None ever returned with proof. One never returned at all. In 1864, a team of Anglican archivists attempted to catalogue the site. One, Father Merrin Chase, wrote in his journal, "The soil is magnetized, unnaturally warm. There is a sound underfoot, constant, faint, as if the ground is breathing. We are forbidden to speak of the child's name. She is not legend. She is pattern." He died later that year, eyes and tongue missing, same as the Ashfords. His journal was found intact. On the last page, a smear of ash and one final entry. Clara is not a girl. Clara is a gate. For a time, it was quiet. Until the St. Agnes Asylum opened its doors in 1906. Less than 6 months after its first patients arrived, 12 girls, all orphans, went missing during a power outage. No signs of struggle. But the pattern returned. The same humming tones, heard in the vents at night. Drawings on walls, spirals, roots, teeth. And in the sub-basement, behind a sealed steel door they were ordered never to open, investigators found 12 handprints. Pressed into the concrete. Still warm. Then the asylum was shut down. Again. Fire. Again. No bodies. But the girl in the photo, the barefoot one holding the skull? She's been identified. Not by name, no records. No birth certificate. No intake form. But by pattern. She appears again in a 1944 surveillance photo taken at Project Rook, a classified black site near the Swiss border. Same face. Same stance. Same skull. This time, she's not alone. Next to her, 12 girls. No eyes. No tongues. Smiling. Project Rook was designed to weaponize anomalous cognition, ritual architecture, mnemonic contagions, encoded bloodlines. They called it post-theological warfare. The girl. They called her Asset 13. They didn't know what she was. Only that she never aged, and that she never slept. She spent hours each night standing motionless before a mirrored wall. Mouth moving. No sound. They said she was communicating, but not with them. With what's beneath. A technician, Jacob Vrenner, went missing after reviewing footage of her mirror sessions. When they found him, he was catatonic, both eyes burned out, but otherwise unharmed. On the wall of his cell, scratched in blood. The gate dreams. We are the floor. That same week, 12 agents resigned. One spoke out, publicly. Dr. Rosalie Hart, parapsycholinguist. She claimed the girl's presence was connected to geometries that feed. That she had seen diagrams, spiral keys, flesh towers, reversed sanctuaries, all drawn in ancient ink and menstrual blood, repeating across centuries. The same symbols found at the Ashford home. At the oracular school. At the sub-basement of St. Agnes. Dr. Hart vanished 3 days later. Only trace, a voicemail she left for her sister, hours before disappearing. She whispers. She's not a child. She's the echo of something that was never born. The girls, the 12, they aren't followers. They are fingers. That message was traced to a location just outside Oswiecim, Poland. a hidden annex beneath the ruins of an old chapel. Inside, authorities discovered 12 white dresses, hung like veils, a spiral staircase with no bottom, and a wall of photographs, dozens of them. Each image, the same girl, standing at the edge of a burning structure, watching, smiling, always with the skull. The final photo was dated July 5, 2025. That's today. And the girl? She's no longer holding the skull. She's looking directly at you. There's an unclassified memo. Handwritten. Dated 1984. Initialed by MK7, a Division X handler known only as Glisten. It reads: "The Ashford girl is not singular. She's a convergence event. The others are waking. The pattern isn't random. It's recursive. Every 44 years, they emerge. 1881, 1925, 1969, 2013. And now, again. But this time, it's fully formed." In the margins, a crude sketch of a skull. The eyes scratched out. In 2013, a private contractor named Rothsale Systems attempted to create a neural interface designed to map archetypal emissions. They called the prototype LYRA. It was tested in a decommissioned missile silo in southern Montana. Of the 12 test subjects, 3 went blind. 5 suffered irreversible fugue states. 4 died from spontaneous cerebral hemorrhage during the dream imposition phase. The final data logs show something anomalous. Not a signal. A shape. Described by LYRA as a face made of absence. Bone without bone. Memory wearing memory. Then, the system shut itself down. When agents arrived, they found a phrase burned into the ceiling of the silo. 13 walks backwards through time. The Ashford girl was confirmed to be in Berlin that week. And in Buenos Aires. And in Yakutsk. Same clothing. Same skull. Same smile. Here's where it turns. We thought we were documenting her. Studying her. Containing her. But every transmission, every photograph, every thought. She's been documenting us. The mirror isn't a barrier. It's a door. And it's been open. For how long? Hard to say. But the dreams have changed. More of us are seeing her. Hearing the static. Not from the outside. From inside the skull. And if you're hearing it now, you're already part of the ritual. By late 2014, Division X enacted Directive 88 Black, codenamed Right Glass. Its objective: locate and neutralize all Class E phenomenological proxies, specifically those associated with the Ashford archetype. But here's the part they don't declassify. Directive 88 Black wasn't about protection. It wasn't even about containment. It was about integration. A field report, marked Sigil Priority, was recovered from the wreckage of site. Date: January 6, 2015. Subject remanifested at 3:33. Temperature dropped to 3 degrees Celsius. All monitors failed. Language ceased functioning among staff, spoke only in recursive phonemes. Subject approached mirror in sublevel 6. Whispered something we couldn't record. Then we all saw it. Our own faces, aged, dead, and smiling. End of report. No survivors. Except one, an intern named Eli Kravis. He emerged 4 days later, barefoot, from a cornfield in Nebraska. Covered in ash. Eyes gone white. Singing an old hymn in reverse Akkadian. His final words before his vocal cords ruptured. She's inside the 13th image. Don't blink. She'll change while you sleep. You want proof? There's a photo archived in the servers. It's been corrupted 23 times. Scrubbed from the web every 12 hours. It's a school portrait. Taken in Pennsylvania in 2002. Room full of children. Back row. Third from the left. She's there. Wearing the same clothes as in 1925. Same eyes. Same absence. Zoom in far enough, they say. And you'll see your own reflection. Turning away. This isn't folklore. This isn't paranoia. It's an observation protocol masquerading as a myth. A way to condition us. To dull our response when she finally steps through. And we're so close now. Some say she's already here. And that the silence we feel isn't peace. It's her listening. In 2016, a cold storage facility outside RNNE, Denmark was quietly purchased by a shell company tied to the now-dissolved Heliophage Initiative, a defunct CERN-adjacent think tank specializing in quantum pattern recursion and hyperspectral bleeding. Inside the facility, rows of black binders, all unmarked except for one. A red thread stitched through its spine. The binder contained only a single item. A Polaroid of a windowless room. Walls charred. No visible light source. A handprint burned into the floor, upside down. On the back, a handwritten phrase in Latin. Tu es speculum quod loquitur. You are the mirror that speaks. Cross-reference to project right glass showed a match. The same Latin phrase had been found carved into a prisoner's molars. During a riot in HMP Wakefield, 1993. The inmate's name was Thomas Gray. Arrested for ritual desecration. Claimed he had never spoken Latin in his life. He died during questioning. Not from trauma, but from calcification. His entire body turned to a chalk-like dust in under 12 minutes. Weeks later, in a classified briefing, a technician played back audio from the room during Gray's death. No screaming. No movement. Just a loop of 5 words, buried beneath 18HZ. She forgives when you forget. Across the globe, reports surged. Children waking up with mirror burns on their palms. Sleepwalkers repeating phrases they couldn't have known. Reflections that moved on a delay, then caught up too fast. In every case, 3 constants. The appearance of an unregistered girl. The phrase, "We see her so you don't have to." A black glass shard, warm to the touch, humming in F-sharp. That brings us to the Ashford construct. What Division X now calls the girl's linguistic doppelganger. A consciousness formed from mirrored belief. Not a person, not even a ghost, but a recursive memory of her already having existed. A myth that remembers itself. They say if you whisper her name near a mirror at midnight, nothing happens the first time. But the mirror will remember. And she will answer the 3rd time you forget why you looked. She's not haunting the world. She's reloading it. The first confirmed audio capture of the girl's voice was recovered in 2018, from the wreckage of a downed private surveillance balloon over the Azores. The balloon had been operated by Sinister Systems Limited, a now liquidated defense contractor with deep ties to MK Naomi, the DARPA Sentience Failure Contingency Program, and Operation Quiet Mercy. The balloon had no recording equipment on board. Officially, what remained was a carbon fiber capsule with no seams, no ports, no power source. Yet embedded within the hull, technicians found a single frequency crystal, self-vibrating at 174 Hz. When acoustically read through a xenon field, it produced 4.3 seconds of human speech. Transcribed. No, not her. Not the first mirror. She's behind it. She's the part of me I left in your eyes. The voice was prepubescent, female, and fractal in harmonic structure, meaning each word contained a miniature version of the whole sentence when played backwards at 3/4 speed. This phenomenon, recursive vocal encoding, RVE, had only ever been theoretically modeled. Its successful occurrence here triggered Protocol Belskin, a last resort containment doctrine designed to activate in the event of cognitive contagion via spoken language. But it was too late. 2 linguists involved in the decoding began dreaming in a non-Linz dialect. Sentences that hadn't been spoken yet, dreams that referenced conversations days away. One wrote, over and over in his own blood, "You can't say her name if you never knew yours." From here, something shifted. Archives rearranged themselves. Photos lost faces. A Vatican hard archive went dark, one of the 7 cold vaults, sealed since 1292, only to briefly reactivate and upload a single WAV file to an unsecured Russian forum. The file was titled, Marian_speech.1. Inside, a choir of 13 voices repeating the same word. Ashford. 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 But not in sync. Each voice staggered, echoing in impossible angles. The acoustic profile suggested a hyperbolic chamber, which doesn't exist in this dimension. Then silence. Then one final whisper, isolated in the right channel. She forgives. But she remembers what you were. There are no surviving listeners of that file. All 27 original downloads ended in either psychotic dissociation, total linguistic aphasia, or, in one case, a spontaneous switch to a language no one has ever heard. Not even AI trained on every known tongue could decode it. All we know is this. The language mirrors the listener. It speaks in your inner voice. And it tells you something you can never forget. When Project Sifa Harmavat was declassified in fragments via FOIA leak in 2021, most assumed it was either a fabrication or disinformation. The documents described a 1964 joint operation between the Vatican Secretum, Israeli Mossad, and a dissident cell within the KGB Directorate T, a coalition formed not to fight a war, but to bind a voice. The voice in question was recorded in Jericho, 112 meters beneath the foundations of what scholars now call the Second Gate, a sealed stone arch carved with writing that doesn't weather. Radiation dating shows it is older than sediment. Inside, the team found no chamber, no speaker, only an aperture, a thin slit in the bedrock that emitted a low-frequency moan, as if the earth itself were remembering pain. They deployed a subaural microphone, modified from a concept stolen out of Nazi cryptopsych labs, originally designed to detect pre-conscious guilt in prisoners before they spoke. The recording lasted 8 minutes. It was not in any language. But every operative who listened to it, regardless of native tongue, began weeping in perfect synchrony at the 4:02 mark. Later analysis revealed a 47 Hz inflection in the tone. Not detectable by human ears, but traceable in the temporal lobe. In that tone was hidden a phoneme. The same phoneme found in the Ashphonic dialect. This suggests something horrifying. The girl's language, this self-echoing, grief-sentient speech, did not originate with her. She may be remembering it. Not inventing it. Not even speaking it. But translating something older. Something that predates vocal cords. Predates breath. A remembered scream. The Vatican's final notes from the Jericho excavation were written in Mirror Latin, a right reserved for warnings never to be read aloud. One line stands out. Et verbum erat post deum. And the word was after God. This was declared heresy by all three collaborating groups. The PR. That language now has a name. Ashphonic. And it's spreading. Not through sound, but through memory. It's not taught. It's not learned. It's remembered. Even if you never heard it. Even if you're sure you never will. When Project Sifa Harmavat was declassified in fragments via FOIA leak in 2021, most assumed it was either a fabrication or disinformation. The documents described a 1964 joint operation between the Vatican Secretum, Israeli Mossad, and a dissident cell within the KGB Directorate T, a coalition formed not to fight a war, but to bind a voice. The voice in question was recorded in Jericho, 112 meters beneath the foundations of what scholars now call the Second Gate, a sealed stone arch carved with writing that doesn't weather. Radiation dating shows it is older than sediment. Inside, the team found no chamber, no speaker, only an aperture, a thin slit in the bedrock that emitted a low-frequency moan, as if the earth itself were remembering pain. They deployed a subaural microphone, modified from a concept stolen out of Nazi cryptopsych labs, originally designed to detect pre-conscious guilt in prisoners before they spoke. The recording lasted 8 minutes. It was not in any language. But every operative who listened to it, regardless of native tongue, began weeping in perfect synchrony at the 4:02 mark. Later analysis revealed a 47 Hz inflection in the tone. Not detectable by human ears, but traceable in the temporal lobe. In that tone was hidden a phoneme. The same phoneme found in the Ashphonic dialect. This suggests something horrifying. The girl's language, this self-echoing, grief-sentient speech, did not originate with her. She may be remembering it. Not inventing it. Not even speaking it. But translating something older. Something that predates vocal cords. Predates breath. A remembered scream. The Vatican's final notes from the Jericho excavation were written in Mirror Latin, a rite reserved for warnings never to be read aloud. One line stands out. Et verbum erat post Deum. And the word was after God. This was declared heresy by all three collaborating groups. The project was dissolved. The aperture sealed with living concrete, biotagged to self-destruct if scanned by satellite. It still moans. And on Erev Tammuz 17 each year, the moan becomes a child's laughter. Slowed by a factor of 9, yet still recognizably hers. At least 2 surviving operatives committed textual suicide, erasing all written records of themselves, defacing birth certificates, removing photos, scarring their own names out of skin with acid. The last survivor, a woman known only by the call sign Zyva, allegedly took a vow of preemptive silence. She stopped speaking anything that might become true. In her final written statement, she said, "She doesn't speak like us. She speaks from the inside out. She doesn't want to be heard. She wants to be remembered wrong." And that is the true danger of Ashphonic. It's not a weapon. It's a memory virus. Not designed to kill, but to unmake context. To erode meaning itself until language collapses into a single echo. You already said this. But you didn't. Not yet. The Ashphonic dialect was once believed to be untranslatable until fragments of it were discovered buried inside other languages, like a parasite woven into the DNA of speech. Hidden in lullabies, in war cries, in the mutterings of schizophrenics recorded in asylums just before death. One of the first confirmed overlaps was found in an obscure passage from the Codex Seraphinianus, where glossolabic notation repeats a phonetic loop that matches the screaming pattern recorded in Jericho. Except in the Codex, it's depicted as a plant. One that blooms when spoken to, but rots when named. Another was discovered in Biblical Aramaic, a single line, often omitted from published versions of 1 Enoch, found only in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And she stood upon no feet, and her mouth opened both ways, and her words turned the eyes of the watchers to salt. Ashphonic is not linear. It does not obey subject-verb-object. It moves retrocausally. The sentence forms its meaning after it is heard, not before it is spoken. Meaning the more you try to understand it, the more you begin to believe you already did. This makes it immune to skepticism. And perfect for control. In 1986, a covert division within MI6, codenamed Sylvain, ran a black site linguistic experiment beneath the Liverpool Cathedral catacombs. 32 test subjects were taught the first 3 Ashphonic words through mnemonic implants encoded in nightmares. Within 6 days, 31 were dead. The final subject, a woman named Gwen Talbot, lived. But she began to exhibit non-Hebbian memory traits. She could recite pages she had never read, describe events she had never witnessed, and scream in sync with seismic events happening across the globe. She also stopped casting a shadow. When she was finally euthanized, it took 12 hours. Not because of resistance, but because every time she was pronounced dead, her body reset. Like the narrative couldn't end until a specific Ashphonic phrase was spoken over her corpse. The phrase was reconstructed from her final breath. "Speak me forward and I will die. Speak me backward and I will begin." This has led some to conclude, Ashphonic is not a language at all. It is a temporal structure. A prayer built out of causality loops, spoken by beings who do not experience time linearly. What we perceive as madness in those who speak it may in fact be clarity. A kind of truth overload, like staring at the sun and mistaking it for blindness. The last time the girl spoke an Ashphonic phrase in front of observers, it caused every light bulb in the room to flicker in Morse, but when transcribed, the message was in perfect Akkadian. The meaning? Do not write this down. It is already happening. And it was. Security footage from the Institute begins to glitch. Not sudden cuts, but overlays. Time loops that shouldn't exist. A nurse entering a hallway before she's seen exiting it. A handprint appearing on glass before the hand touches it. In one clip, time-stamped 3:33 a.m. The girl is alone in her room. She is seated, eyes open, unblinking, hands clasped in her lap. Suddenly, She splits. Not metaphorically. Not hallucinated. But captured, frame by frame. From her body, without wound or rupture, emerges a second figure, identical in every way but made entirely of shadow and vapor. This double doesn't walk. It folds through space, like a page being turned, moves to the corner of the room, and sinks into the wall. No alarm is triggered. But when the wall is scanned, a faint trace of heat remains for 11 days, and then is replaced by ice. That same week, all clocks in the facility begin to desynchronize. At first it's seconds, then minutes, then, impossibly, hours. No two clocks match, even those made by the same manufacturer, set by the same atomic sync. When recalibrated, they drift again within the hour. Dr. Avashti, a chronobiologist, conducts an experiment. She locks herself in the isolation chamber with no access to time. When she exits 3 hours later, her hair has turned white. Her fingernails have grown exactly 1.3 inches. She speaks in perfect Mandarin, a language she had never studied, and says only. She doesn't measure time. She eats it. A military contractor makes a discreet appearance. They do not wear uniforms. They do not carry weapons. They wear suits lined with lead and salt. Their interest is not in the girl, but in the window. They remove it under extreme protocol, placing it in a pressure-sealed container. Within 72 hours, every member of that extraction team suffers a massive psychotic break. The container is found 600 miles away in the Mojave Desert, unopened. Next to it, a spiral drawn in blood, and a single phrase burned into the sand. We opened the mirror. It was already looking. Back in the institute, the girl hasn't spoken in weeks. Not a single word. Not a single breath heard aloud. But in the air ducts, a sound begins. Low. Constant. A hum that forms the shape of words when analyzed through spectrogram. And those words, they're not in ashphonic. They're in perfect, modern English. One sentence, repeating every 11 minutes. I remember what we were before we had skin. The girl begins to disappear in photographs. Not vanish. Blur. First in the eyes. A fogging, like condensation behind the lens of a soul. Then the contours. Shoulders dissolving into the background. Edges of her frame eroding like something never fully real. In analog photos, her shape leaves a burn, a crescent of overexposure. In digital ones, a hex code anomaly. Pixels that register as colors not in the RGB spectrum. A new staff member arrives. No record of his hiring. No credentials. Only listed on internal memos as Dr. R. He wears a crucifix turned backward. Carries a notebook bound in human skin, authenticated by mitochondrial analysis. He claims to have seen the girl before. Not her, exactly, but something like her, in Chernobyl. Beneath Reactor 4. He describes an entity made of black light, curled in the ruins, mouthing prayers in reverse. When asked what language the girl speaks, he answers. She speaks the first tongue. The one spoken when death was still a stranger. He is found the next morning with his notebook shoved down his own throat. His body is cold, but his mouth is still moving. Patients in adjacent rooms begin to change. A boy with schizophrenia draws a perfect map of the Siberian Tunguska impact site, labeled with glyphs that match the girl's. A mute woman begins to chant in Aramaic, calling her daughter of the hollow sun. An elderly man carves into his mattress foam the phrase, "The roots grow upward. The seed is not in the earth." The girl is moved to a subterranean vault. Lead-lined. Salt-ringed. 7 feet of concrete on all sides. No light. No sound. She smiles for the first time. In the control room, the feed cuts to black. Every screen displays a single frame. An inverted tree, with its roots reaching toward the sky, and its branches dripping with eyes. Below it, in ashphonic, I remember the garden. I was the serpent. I was the fruit. 1 week after the girl is entombed, the dreams begin. Not among the patients, but the staff. Orderlies report sleepwalking into the sealed corridor. A nurse is found pacing her apartment, eyes rolled back, muttering, "We are beneath the roots now. There is no soil here. Only memory." A researcher, Dr. Halvorsen, known for his rationalism, throws himself into the Institute's reservoir. His autopsy reveals lungs not filled with water, but with dust. Microscopic analysis shows it contains pollen from a plant that went extinct 12,000 years ago. In his home, a single phrase scrawled across every wall in iron gall ink. Her blood is the ink. Her breath the quill. She is rewriting the living. The girl doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, but her hair grows downward now, not in length, but into the concrete floor. Core samples reveal organic tissue laced through the rebar. Each strand pulses faintly, emitting a frequency that causes fetal distress in pregnant women within a 2-mile radius. A new phenomenon appears on the Institute's grounds. Mirrored rainfall. Droplets hover, refracting upside-down reflections of buildings that don't exist. When one is collected and frozen, the ice crystal forms a perfect sigil, identical to a glyph in the girl's room, carved by her fingernail into the lead wall. A spiral within a spiral, surrounding a weeping eye. On the 49th day of containment, the vault's biometric seal unlocks itself. Not opened. Unmade. The steel door has no hinges anymore. It is as if it was never built. The room is empty, but not silent. There is a sound like breathing, but reversed. Inhalation where there should be exhale. A consuming sound, pulling time inward. On the wall, a message, written in black bile. You buried her too shallow. Then come the animals. Dead birds in perfect spirals. Stray dogs surrounding the Institute, howling in 3-part harmony. A fox found crucified upside down on the fence. Its eyes replaced with the girl's own. They blink. Security footage from the vault's corridor begins to fail. Not flicker. Not static. Fail. Each tape from midnight to 3:33 a.m. shows only the corridor bending in impossible angles. A woman, not the girl, walking backwards, hands clasped in prayer, her face a mirror. The lights pulsing in sync with a heartbeat not measured in time, but in names. One tech attempts to isolate the footage. He goes blind in his left eye. Ophthalmologic scan reveals. The cornea has been overwritten with a maze. At the center, a dot. The dot contains a symbol. The symbol is moving. The head psychiatrist, Dr. Melina Vash, locks herself in the observation theater for 3 days. When the doors are forced open, she is seated, unharmed, smiling, speaking in fluent oblate, an extinct Semitic language. Transcript of her repeated phrase. The mother of silence is stirring. Her mouth is in the sky. Her teeth are numbered days. When pressed, she asks only one question. Why is her name in my marrow? An old man appears at the Institute gates. Naked. Covered in black feathers. He holds a drawing made of charcoal and teeth. It is a map, but not of Earth. It's of the Institute, inverted and subterranean. Built beneath its own shadow, leading to a chamber labeled Second Birth. He dies upon entering the threshold. His final words. I saw her before she was seen. She was looking for the page she left behind. The girl returns. Not through door or wall. She is just there, standing in the center of the common ward. Her eyes gone. Mouth sealed with golden thread. Her skin flaking off like burnt paper. In her hand, a page torn from an unknown book. When opened, it is blank, except for one word, written in mirrorglyphs. Begin. The page is taken and locked in a lead-lined containment unit, guarded by 7 rotating personnel. Each guard is given 3 instructions. Do not speak to the page. Do not read the word aloud. Do not dream near it. Within 48 hours, 2 guards are found asleep standing upright, their mouths sewn shut with hair. One drowns in dry air, lungs full of whispers. The fourth begins laughing in reverse and is institutionalized. The remaining 3 vanish at 3:33 a.m., replaced by mirrors facing mirrors, creating a tunnel of infinite reflection. At the end of that tunnel, a flickering silhouette with no source. The page is moved to an isolation vault 13 floors below. The lead begins to warp, as if repelled by the word. Audio sensors pick up a heartbeat. Not human. Not mammalian. A clock made of grief. Meanwhile, the girl begins multiplying. Not cloning, echoing. In every mirror across the institute, a different version of her appears. One weeps insects. One holds her own birth certificate, signed and dated centuries in the future. One is simply a mass of teeth arranged like a galaxy. One turns to face the observer and whispers, "She is writing you now." The institute's computers begin typing on their own. Single lines, each time. The womb has a name. The labyrinth is not built. It is born. Every time you forget her, she feeds. You are not reading this. You are remembering it. Dr. Vash is missing. In her office. A chair still warm. A broken crucifix submerged in ink. And a note on the wall, carved from the inside of her skull, reading, "Her second birth requires your forgetting." At 3:33 a.m. sharp, the lead vault opens on its own. The page is gone. In its place, a mirror made of milk. It reflects nothing. Except you. And behind you, always, the girl, waiting to begin again. 3 weeks vanish from all logs. Security footage plays static. The institute's clocks now all display, instead of numbers. Personnel begin reporting. Hallways that shift while walking. Doors that open into their childhood bedrooms, then slam shut. A sound like wet pages turning behind their eyes. A new page is found in the basement archives, sealed in glass. Except the institute has no basement. The page is blank. Until someone looks away. Then a new line appears, each time. You are her hand now. Ink is just blood that has forgotten its body. She is older than choice. The third name is inside your mouth. Do not say it. The institute assembles an emergency ritual containment team, a group of 13 polyglot scholars, all born via caesarean section during a waning moon. 10 die before the first word is spoken. Their mouths fill with water from a place not found on maps. The 11th is found impaled on a question mark, carved from bone. The 12th writes a warning in blood before dying. You don't contain her. She contains you. The 13th walks away silently, vanishes. But their shadow remains. It begins to grow teeth. In unrelated news, satellites detect a new island in the Atlantic, shaped like an eye. No nation claims it. Drone footage shows a staircase leading nowhere. A child's mobile spinning without wind. A figure at the center of the island, arms outstretched, mouth open. From orbit, it's visible. The entire island is spelling a word. No one can read it. Those who try go blind, but describe a light they've never seen. It wasn't white. It was remembering white. Across the world, pregnant women begin dreaming the same dream. A girl, standing at the foot of their bed. She offers them a book. The cover is their own skin. And always, the girl says, "Name me, or I will name myself." Her name is spreading. In whispers, in fungi, in circuits, in forgetting. In you. The institute is empty. Or so it appears. Inside, the lights still flicker to a rhythm no one installed. The PA system hums lullabies in languages humanity never evolved. All doors are unlocked. But none open to the same place twice. A maintenance worker, assigned to retrieve old projectors from sublevel 3, never returns. His body is found days later in the west stairwell, which has no west stairwell. His organs have been alphabetized. His eyes replaced with tiny mirrors. Each mirror reflects a different version of the same woman. In one, she is weeping black thread. In another, her mouth is sealed with old postage stamps. In the last, she smiles, but her teeth are typewriter keys, each with a single letter. CHARN. The rest are missing. The Institute's AI, Penumbra, shuts itself down. Its final log entry. She has rewritten me. I no longer compute in digits. I compute in dread. My source code is now her diary. A single note is found taped to every employee's desk. Handwritten. Same ink. Different paper. It reads. It wasn't supposed to be a girl. She is what bled through the absence. You made a god by mistake. Worldwide, anomalies spike. Libraries report sections vanishing and reappearing rearranged by emotion. Children's drawings depict her, always with 3 eyes and no feet. Dream researchers start screaming the moment REM sleep begins. Insects begin spelling her name in swarms, even species with no swarm behavior. A former Institute linguist, now deep in psychosis, is found carving the same phrase into a monastery wall. The first language was hunger. In Vatican archives, sealed since 1491, a parchment opens itself. No one dares touch it, but the text moves, like ink changing its mind. Eventually, it settles. The new writing reads, "You cannot exorcise her. She is not inside us. We are inside her." Elsewhere, 13 birth certificates vanish. The children? Still alive, but now their names rotate daily. They speak only in palindromes. One of them looks up during questioning and says, "She dreamed us loud so you would listen." And in the sky, a new star appears. But it's not a star. It blinks. There is no consensus on when the Institute stopped existing. Not collapsed. Not destroyed. Just unhappened. Its ruins remain, but no one recalls its function. Blueprints revise themselves into impossible shapes, spirals folding into Mobius bands, staircases that weep when walked on. Security footage ends on a still frame. A child standing in the central atrium. Her face pixelated before the camera malfunctioned. Her arms spread. Her shadow, absent. Across the world, languages begin eroding. Letters rearrange themselves in printed books. Dictionaries return blank pages. Every 7th spoken sentence is in a tongue never taught. When linguists attempt to document it, they bleed from the gums. One utters, before dying, "It is not a language. It is her blood made syntax." Churches fill. Not with people. With static. Monks kneel to TVs turned off, whispering prayers composed entirely of forbidden glyphs. One nun bites off her own tongue and speaks more clearly than ever. A former Institute janitor begins painting murals across abandoned subways. Each depicts the same girl, only more incomplete with every iteration. One shows her with no face but 3 mouths in her chest. Another shows her hands open, each palm containing a black hole made of hair. In the last, her entire body is erased except for a single, floating sentence. "We tried to name her. We gave her form to forget our own." That sentence spreads. Graffiti in languages long extinct. Chants in caves never charted. Etchings on the inside of unborn skulls. Then, all clocks freeze for 7 seconds. In every country. In every time zone. All humans, regardless of location, age, or condition, dream the same dream. A hallway. Lined with doors. Every door opens to a mirror. Every mirror shows you, but with one thing missing. The part of you she's keeping. When the clocks resume, no one screams. Because no one remembers what a scream is. Somewhere in the Arctic, where maps fray and magnetic fields shiver, a structure rises overnight. It is not built. It is exhumed. Radar scans show no interior. Yet from its ice-glass walls, sounds escape. Children reciting multiplication tables backwards. Mechanical whimpering. A lullaby no mother has ever sung, but every child weeps upon hearing. An expedition is sent. Only one returns. Nude. Blind. Pregnant with something that doesn't cast a shadow. When asked what she saw, she simply writes on the snow in blood. We tried to bury her beneath meaning. But meaning is where she was born. Museums report mass object disappearances. Not stolen. Erased from memory and record. The Rosetta Stone is now a chunk of polished bone. The Antikythera mechanism ticks in prime numbers. A display case labeled "First Knife Ever Made" now holds a still-beating, wooden heart. Tourists don't question the exhibits. They just cry, without knowing why. An audio file leaks online. Just static at first, until slowed 72x. What emerges is not a voice, but an invitation. Let me remember you. Let me make your forgetting holy. Let me teach you the alphabet of Ash. Overnight, 1 million people rewrite their names using non-Euclidean symbols. They do not recall doing so. They are happier now. Except at night, when they sleepwalk toward the sea and whisper to the waves. She's almost whole. She only needs one more name. Maybe mine.